Explain to us what prompted the New York State Liquor Authority to strip several restaurants of their liquor licenses.
Hey Nora. Well, in short, it was overcrowding. So obviously bar-goers, restaurant goers here in New York State are a little bit tired of quarantining, as we have seen by sort of crowds gathering outside popular restaurants. But the pandemic is still very much ongoing, and Governor Andrew Cuomo won't let bars and restaurants forget it. So a handful of bars and restaurants have been stripped first of their outdoor dining privileges and then ultimately of their liquor licenses after sort of repeated offenses here. And a couple of the main offenders are actually in Queens. So we had Brick Astoria and MIA in Astoria. We had Maspeth Pizza in Maspeth, and also a gentleman's club in Deer Park. Now, Steinway Street in Astoria has actually made quite a name for itself as a party street, much to the ire of locals. A couple of videos were trending over the weekend, going viral, showing what appeared to be a block party on Steinway, and Brick Astoria appeared to be kind of at the epicenter, if you will, of this party. So on Saturday night, sheriff's deputies actually arrived and handed out up to 5,000 masks to many of the revelers who were not wearing masks. For its part, Brick Astoria has maintained that it has no control over what people do when they are outside of its premises, and that it is not encouraging this type of behavior, although the bar did appear to promote or throw a party for 50 Cents alcohol brand as recently as mid-July.
Yeah, Chloe, I live right by Stone Street in downtown Manhattan. It really seems like a zoo at nighttime, so I can see why these rules are going into effect. But Chloe, bars have tried to create some interesting ways to skirt this requirement. They serve both food and alcohol. What is happening in that realm across New York?
Absolutely. Well, to back it up, like you said, partially in response to this kind of misbehavior on the part of both bars and restaurants and, of course, diners at them, Governor Cuomo instituted a rule that food has to be served with alcohol. This was designed to encourage people to dine outdoors, sit at their respective tables, and rather than encouraging the kind of like congregating bar type behavior that they don't want to see in the midst of an infectious pandemic. But of course, bars have found interesting ways to get around it. A slate of menu items have popped up that are cheap, humorous, often sarcastic, the most famous being, of course, Cuomo chips. This was at Harvey's Irish Pub in Saratoga Springs, just $1 for a bag of Cuomo chips. We also saw a brewing company in Buffalo do some interesting things, like literally 9 French fries. So obviously having a little bit of fun here. Cuomo did not find it as fun, and he quickly moved to clarify that, a bag of chips or a bowl of trail mix is not, in fact, what he was looking for.
Wow, 9 French fries. That is clever. But Chloe, obviously this behavior not limited to New York. All around the country, bars and restaurants are affected. So where else are we seeing similar social distancing and lockdown violations at bars and restaurants?
You're right. This is not just a New York story, and perhaps nowhere else are they doing things quite as colorfully as here in New York, but we are seeing violations across the country. Over the weekend in LA County, investigators went out to about 2,000 restaurants. They found out that about half, or 1,000 of them, had some sort of violation, whether it be social distancing, perhaps the table is not spaced far enough apart, or that the wait staff wasn't wearing the appropriate PPE. There they have to wear face shields and face masks to protect themselves and their customers. Also, we're hearing reports of this going on in cities in Minneapolis, also in Oregon, and in counties in South Florida as well. And I think it's important to remember that although behavior that endangers people's lives really can't be excused, obviously, in some cases, this behavior is coming out of a place of desperation. Restaurants are one of the industries that have been hit hardest by the pandemic. It's already a notoriously thin-margined industry. And I took a look at some data from Toast. It's a POS software system. Prior to the pandemic in early March, revenues were up about 8% year over year, average daily revenues in restaurants nationwide. They bottomed out in mid-March, down about 79%. And even now, with some reopenings, they're only up about 39%. So obviously, these restaurants are really struggling. And when given an inch, they're kind of taking a mile here.